What's going on, Tamers? East here, and did you guys see the EX9 reveal they came out with? They revealed my little dude, my homie. You know the one I'm talking about. AG, show him my dude. Show him the one I'm talking about. You know which one I'm talking about too. Come on now. Yeah, that's him. There's just something about this guy that I feel like I can resonate really well with, and I just can't put my finger on it. Actually, I know what it is. You know what it is? It's the boxing gloves. We both like boxing. That's definitely gotta be it. Because if there was anything else in your mind, you're going to hell. And so outside of the confirmation for a version 1 decklist coming out of this channel, this video is also about the 5th week of the BT21 World Convergence meta report over here in Asia. And with the game unified across the world now, it's really cool to be able to take a look at the different trends that happen in specific regions and how each of the regions are now approaching the game differently. You got that between things like Japan, China, and even you folks over in the West. And with all this talk about different trends, with the game's balance finally starting to tip this week, there's definitely been some interesting ones that have emerged. And in this video, we'll touch on how Megidramon's stellar performance has shifted the game into what I would consider a kind of uncertain place, with a lot of decks' dominance and future potential kind of up in the air, even Megidramon himself. There's a lot of exciting stuff to cover, so with that, let's take a look at some event results, a couple of key takeaways, and a closer look at some of the decks that topped over the course of the past week. Look, if there was ever any doubt in your mind that Megidramon as a deck is a kaiju level threat in the game right now, then let me be the first person to tell you that this guy is here to stay. That is pending any Gravity Crush bans. Bandai, I would be happy for that last comment to age like milk, so go ahead and do your thing. The deck has been so popular these past couple of weeks that it's starting to affect the performance of some of the other really strong decks in the game, especially when you take a look at this week's biggest loser, Shadowverse. And honestly, when you have the choice between Shadowverse and Megidramon, Megidramon is just an easier deck to play overall. And look, before you folks get into my comments saying like, no, it's a hard deck to play and you gotta be skillful, shut up, no one believes you. Just chill, we understand what the deal is. We've all seen how the combo works, and it's not calculus. And before you Shadowverse players start taking that last comment and then running around playing the victim, chill, because honestly, with you guys out of the picture, that means there's less Valder Arm and Ruin Mode running around as well. And I don't think anybody's too mad about that one. And with those two aforementioned monsters out of the picture, it feels like a lot of the old favorites are starting to swoop in to fill the void. Decks like Imperialdramon Virus, who just wants to race Megidramon Mario Kart style to see who finds their blue shell first. And if you saw last week's meta report, then you already know that Gallimon, who is essentially a turncoat at this point, has teamed up with Hexablaumon for more control-based gameplay. Meanwhile, you've got Veldramon trying to blend in with some of the hero cards like Steve Buscemi and 30 Rock. And to his credit, he's doing a pretty good job. I don't think the heroes have caught on yet. And if you take a look at the rookie level, you'll notice that players are trying to put together the sugar, spice, and everything nice of a Megidramon deck, but then they added the Chemical X of Phoenixmon, and that's a deck now, I guess? And honestly, I can kind of understand them for making that mistake. Seiji, can you do me a favor, and can you overlay the Phoenixmon card over top the Megidramon? They look pretty damn similar. Anyway, back to my metaphor, players have created this weird bird, lizard, chimera slop that, if nothing else, will definitely help Tucker keep his State Alchemist qualifications for another year. There are also some other really cool notables that happened last week, but the one that I really want to highlight is the fact that yellow decks are once again gracing us with their presence, a phrase that I say very tongue-in-cheek. In my opinion, their appearance signals the beginning of the end. No doubt us paying for our Megidramon sins, and if that is really the reason, then man, there are so many sins right now. And if you're like me and you need to know how much longer you have to repent for the war crime decks that you've made in the past, don't forget to subscribe for more coming Rapture updates, as well as more Digimon card game content shuffled directly into your YouTube feed. Are you like this kid here and haven't seen someone top with a deck that has a Vmon or Imperialdramon line in it in the past, oh I don't know, 14 seconds? Well, good news! This past weekend in Beijing, China, someone won a 245-person Super Tamer Battle event with Imperialdramon Virus. This list is anything super crazy, but for the folks who need a quick refresher or haven't seen the deck before, let me give you a quick idea of what it does. So your first checkpoint is to get a red level 4 and a purple level 4 on the board, and because you have the level 4 promo Shoutmon, who is both colors and can play another Digimon whenever he's evolved into, this is a pretty easy bar to clear. They both DNA Digivolve into a Dinobimon level 5 in your hand, and then he lets you play down another level 5 from your trash. From there, you can use your Polymerization card to make them an Imperialdramon Dragon Mode. The Dragon Mode Old Testament style blows up your opponent's entire board, but does spare one single soul, and then he gets to attack. Something, 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 go into a Fighter Mode, and then the Fighter Mode just destroys the last remaining soul and your opponent's security along with it. Oof, maybe the Fighter Mode is more akin to Old Testament than the Dragon Mode is. And you've got a lot of cards that do facilitate actually doing all of what I just mentioned. Things like the Analog Youth, where, also, quick sidebar, why do we call this card Analog Youth when he is like the most automatic card for most decks in a lot of cases? What a misnomer this one is. There's also a couple copies of the Mist Memory Boost as a way to fill up the trash and also help you draw, and then on later turns you can extend your own turn by getting the memory from the delay effect. The single copy of the Shoutmon is kind of interesting. It does give you essentially a 5th Wormmon as a way to play Digimon from the trash whenever you play them on the board or start of your main phase. And even more interestingly, his inheritance effect essentially lets your level 5s attack whenever the Nobimon plays a second level 5. It can actually attack with a high degree of living in most cases with the minus 3,000 to all of your opponent's security Digimon. I think there's not a lot of stuff that would actually be able to kill him in the current environment. And then finally, once you get your level 5s and above, you pretty much have 3 ace chances at your disposal. The first one's going to be Dragon Mode Ace, which will let you pop an 11k or lower Digimon on your opponent's side of the board. I'm looking at you, Medieval Gallantmon. The Blue-Green Fighter Mode Ace is going to let you bounce Digimon with less sources than him, and because you're double DNA Digivolving, you're going to actually have a ton of sources at your disposal, so it's pretty much anything in the game. And then finally, to screw over trash-based decks, Megidramon, you've also got the Paladin Mode Ace at your disposal as well. All in all, some really cool combo-based gameplay from this deck, and then once you get to the Fighter Mode, the regular Fighter Mode, not the Ace, he's actually going to stop your opponent from playing Digimon and Tamers by effects, a really powerful floodgate effect on its own right, which pretty much stops most other decks in the game flat. Imagine having to pay for effects in this economy? Ooh. Alright Tamers, look, I gotta downgrade Gallantmon's status once again. He's going from Turncoat to, at this point, Ho. He's getting passed around by red, blue, and now yellow. His fallaciousness aside though, this deck is actually a really cool idea. BT21 saw the creation of a more Shoutmon focused Crossheart deck, but this deck list here says, what if we took the EX6 and just replaced it with Gallantmon X Antibody? And what a smart move. The Shoutmon card is letting you skip the level 4s and evolve into your level 5s for either reduced cost or in some cases even free, makes the deck incredibly fast. You can combine this with the added firepower of the Shoutmon cards, where in Inheritance they give a Crossheart trait Digimon Rush. This means that the turn they're played, they can typically attack and put a lot of pressure on your opponent at the same time. And then once you get your level 5s, you have 2 options at your disposal. You can either go the Shoutmon DX route, where he just deletes a Digimon, has Sec +1, and then whenever he's removed from the board, you can essentially save all of your pieces underneath him. Or you can go the Gallantmon X Antibody route, where if you use the X Antibody protoforms in the deck, 4 of in this case, you can evolve into him for a reduced cost of 3, and then he has all of his good effects to unsuspend, destroy Digimon, etc., plus his own DP. You get the idea. The TK is just a solid memory setter, letting you look through your security for your needed pieces as well. Just a really great staple card. If you don't have 4 copies of this guy, not just for this deck, but for just any deck you want to make that has yellow in it, then I definitely recommend picking these up. And then alongside him, you have the new BT21 Taiki Kudo Tamer, who's going to give you more memory, more card draw, and the ability to attack even if the memory has tipped over on your opponent's turn before your turn ends. Taking a look at the options really quickly, the Scramble does some really cool things, letting you put a Shoutmon back onto the board and then putting another needed piece on top of your deck so that you can essentially evolve over him immediately. And then you've also got a couple copies of the Yellow Memory Boost as a way to dig deeply through the deck and also extend your turns a little bit later on in the late game. I had already thought that the Shoutmon package from BT21 was pretty strong in its own right, but seeing a deck like this definitely makes me feel like we're only scratching the surface of what these cards can actually do. Each week I allow my champion level and higher YouTube members to vote on decks they want to see featured in these Meta Report videos. And this week they voted to see Lucemon and also 3 Great Angels and Mastemon. That was actually a tie. But because we took a look at Mastemon last week, I think it would be only fair to cover a different deck this week, so we're going to actually focus on Lucemon itself. If you like to vote on decks that you want to see covered in these kinds of videos, as well as some other cool perks and bonuses like early access to my content, consider becoming a YouTube member today. Again, I want to give a huge shout out to all the folks who support the channel, and with that, let's take a look at Lucemon. Alright, so first and foremost, I gotta come clean with you folks about this list specifically. So I broke one of my own rules in order to show this deck, and that rule is only show lists that win events. Now, before you click away, know that the reason I did this, at least I think was a pretty good reason. This list actually did not win the event that it was in. It actually came in 2nd place, a 121 person tournament in the current age of Digimon, which I think is actually pretty incredible. And so I figured it would be worthwhile to show it off. That being said, I used to think that you had to be rich to play Control because the cards are typically more expensive than normal decks, but this list here let me know that I was wrong. You have to be rich and hateful. The Lucemon cards have always been a little bit more expensive than other decks as far as evolving costs and play costs are concerned, but once you get them down on the board, these cards are monsters. The Lucemon cards either allow you to search through cards in your own deck or force your opponent to make the hard choice of letting you recover or drop their own security. The level 5 Lucemon Chaos Mode forces your opponent to make a different painful choice, no pun intended, or actually, you know what, pun intended, what the hell? That's a card reference, like what am I doing? Like, pun intended, every single day of the week. But they either have to choose between their cards on the field or both of your security. And then once you have your level 5 setup, you have a huge host of options for level 6s and beyond. Looking at this list specifically, you can evolve into almost any of your level 6s, where you've got options like Leviathan for reducing board sizes, the Lucemon Antibody for true stickiness and also just constant security removal, as well as the single Beelzemon for some much needed de-digivolve. On top of that, you have the literal Legion of Doom of ace cards in things like the Shadow Seraphi ace, who can de-digivolve and DP- and redirect attacks. You've also got the Cherubimon, who can give out lots of DP minuses and also play more Digimon on the board. You've also got the Valkyremon ace, who can put down minus 5k blankets a la Ruin mode for a single turn, and even the one copy of the Seraphimon ace, who actually has removal based on security. On the subject of options, the chunky cost ones in the Biting Crush and the Dead or Alive are typically what you want to see in security. But there are some that you do want to see in your hand, things like the 4-cost Revive from Darkness as a way to trade one of your level 3 purple Digimon for Lucemon Chaos Mode immediately. And then you can use your Tamer card in the Meiko Mochizuki as a way to offset those option cards' costs as well. And then finally, the one copy of the Black Sabbath option card is a really cool way to give yourself one extra option in trash when your hand is really light to get rid of something on your opponent's side of the board that's kind of annoying and sticky. And finally, the deck includes a couple of really good staple control cards and things like the Medieval Gallimon, the new Promo Gallimon, and even the one copy of the Luminamon Nene version. Actually, looking at this deck kind of got me interested in Lucemon as a whole, and so I actually made my own version of the list, a little bit of a spin on it, of course, with my own little touch. And then I tried out a couple of games on stream. If you want to see how the deck works in action, then definitely check out the channel and some of the live streams that I've done in the past to see how the deck runs, as well as the deck list that I did and some of the changes that I made and the reasons why. All that to say that if you ever had a passing interest in any of the control decks in Digimon, or wanted to kind of get your feet wet with some of the control decks in the game and kind of how they operate differently to, I guess, more typical mid-range decks, definitely give this list a try as well. And that pretty much wraps up week 5 of the BT21 World Convergence meta report over here in Asia. You know, it's kind of nice to go back to edited content, he says as he looks at the 200 bad take files on his computer screen right now. Let's see, what's coming down the pipeline? EX9's coming down, what, about a month now? A little bit less than a month, I suppose. That'll be interesting. I really haven't taken a look at a lot of the cards outside of my homeboy, you know the one. So I still have a little bit of studying to do there. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, for folks who don't know, in the past I made a couple of blog posts on my own personal free WordPress blog site, and that was kind of like a litmus test, and I actually got some really good feedback for that. And so what I'm trying to do now is I've recently started to take on another big project for the Digimon card game, where I want to release a Digimon card game like news website hub, where if you're like a new player or you're trying to like hop into the game after a small hiatus and you just want to learn more about the game, I want to feature a place that has like news articles, deck reports, like new information about that game, event reports from players who went to events and talk about their own experiences and things like that. I think it would be a really cool idea, and so that's kind of like my big goal for this year for the game, as far as I'm concerned. Also, side note, if you're interested in writing articles or helping out in some form or fashion, hit me up via my email. You can find either on my profile page on YouTube here, or I think you can also find it on my profile on Twitter as well. So check those places out, hit me up if you're interested. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. Before you get out of here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.